from next week, we're going to start giving, we're working on some training that we're going to be start giving from next week onwards. We had to wait a little bit before we got the training together now because there's just been some changes to the underlying architecture. And we wanted to make sure you all have the latest information. So the training is going to cover a couple of different areas. There's going to be a quick start, which is computing a manifest file generated by somebody else. So this is going to be one of the most common use cases of Impact Framework. As you generate manifest files, as you use it, you're actually going to pass those manifest files over to other people, and they need to know how to run your manifest file. So that is going to be the first part of the training. But then I think this is really where the power of Impact Framework comes along. Is once you give somebody a manifest file, they can run different scenarios. They can edit the manifest file, they can change it, they can play around with it. That's the real power of manifest files. I'm reading a lot on measurement these days, Joseph and Trini. There's a really beautiful, I'm going to put in a talk soon, but there's been analysis done on music before, like the music as a thing that people did before and after the invention of musical notation. And before musical notation, like the only way to like teach somebody a song was to like would be me standing in front of Joseph just singing at him for like an hour or two, and then him memorizing it all, and then trying to like remember what it was, and then repeating it. And so for like the longest part of human history, there must have been like amazing singers, but the bulk of music was just like wom wom wom, like chanting or this or that or the other, or like drum beating. But as soon as musical notation came along, that's when music just exploded upon this world. You could make more complicated music. You could keep more than just one, um, uh, you know, uh, thread of music at the same time. You could do an orchestra, and it really just exploded this whole musical world that we're in right now. And that's the way I actually think about manifest files. One of the ways, the many things I think of manifest files. One of the things of manifest files is like almost like musical notation for sustainability professionals. So, we're finally writing it down. And once you write it down, that's when the power and that's when the real impact of this work will bring itself known to the world. So anyway, that's the thing with the manifest file. So that'll be like giving somebody your musical. Here's my song, and you can go, well, what if I move that down an octave, or what if I added a different backing track? Like this is what it's all about: mixing and matching, DJing manifest files. So we've also got the next training is going to create your own manifest file from scratch. This is what a lot of the people who'll be using the plugins that you'll be developing in, or maybe you are, or maybe this is what one of the things you'll be doing. But really, like, how do you actually like the actual process of actually adding plugins? How do you initialize them? Understanding this concept, which I'm calling induction, which is taking an observation over to an impact, and just really taking people step by step through the whole process of going from an observation to an impact, which is the real core of what we're all about here. Induction, taking an observation and turning it into an impact, is the real power of impact framework. We're kind of forgetting a little bit that the challenge that we're in the world right now is no one's giving us carbon numbers. And what we're saying is if you can observe, if you can get an observation of something, we can generate those numbers, but through induction and a series of plugins. So no, you don't have to wait anymore. You don't have to agonize because 99% of your infrastructure, no one's reporting anything. Through induction and through a plugin ecosystem, you can take any observation and turn it into a carbon impact. That's the democratizing, revolutionary thing that we're doing here. The next stage is something that we've been building for quite a while. We'll be helpfully demonstrate to you fully next week, which is aggregation. You can publish those. You can group. You can use groupings inside Impact Framework manifest files, and then aggregate them up the tree however you want. So you could group if you're doing cloud. You could group them by region. You could group them by business unit, cost center, whatever you want, however many nestings or groupings that you want, and we'll aggregate it up. And the last thing in the training we're going to do is actually writing a plugin. So we'll be getting you to open up, Visual Studio or whatever your favorite editor is, and actually start writing your first plugin. And we've got a simple plugin for glacial melt conversion that Joseph's proposed. Well, we'll see because I think you proposed that as a hackathon solution, but it's a very good solution for training as well. Um, don't know what else to say, Joseph. Uh, any thoughts? Shouldn't you? What do you think about it? Taking Joseph through it.
I mean, just the fact about using someone else's manifest file is
Mm,
an absolutely great idea, as you mentioned. That will democratize what the intent of how people can figure out that it is so easy to write a plugin.
yeah.
And I think the very fact that the entire manifest file is laid out very simple. I think the end of the day, as long as you have built a tool or you build the input model or input parent, which
Mm,
is simple to use, it becomes used more often than what if you even make it a complicated object oriented program. So
yeah.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, there are. It is relatively simple to create a manifest file, but the way to do it is not open an empty text editor. There's too many kind of nuances and potential footguns to just start writing from scratch with nothing.
Mm,
No inspiration, no template. Having some simple manifest files for doing some routine things will make it much easier for people to onboard because a lot of the things that people are going to do are going to be pretty routine. It's more about taking those taking those routine things, using them as Legos and putting them together and building something complicated. So at least if we can get people to the point of having those having the basic units pretty much templated,
mm,
that'll be a big accelerator for people to start actually running the manifest files, I think.
yeah. I see a future that I'd really love, like the very open source future where you publish your manifest files on like GitHub, and then somebody goes, "Oh, I like that manifest file. That feels pretty close, like a reference architecture. That feels pretty close to what I'm doing. I'm gonna hit fork on that one, and I'm gonna implement my version of that, um, maybe restructuring or something like that." So that's how I see the future. So it's very, very exciting. Um, we were going to, at this point, um, explore writing a spec. Should we go for that? So we
Yeah, why
thought
not? Let's do it.
Sure.
maybe let's spend. Oh, go on. Did somebody say something? No.
No, I think we're just saying let's do it.
Let's do it. Um, and again, if anybody's got time, like if anybody's got questions, like fire away. One of the things that we're one of the reasons we're trying to do a spec is that it was just as an exercise. It might help to explain at least how we think. Oh, let me get this together. I said, I want to do this. Let me stop talking and clicking at the same time because I can never do that. Here we go. So let me share the screen. Uh, so this is right. So this is the uh yep. So this is the IF repository. So let's go in here. Let's go to what should we go to? Yeah, I'm in the right place. Issues. So I'm going to go to new issue, and you don't have to do this. This is well, it's not the worst thing to do, but this is our template for when we're talking about like how do we write a new plugin? How do we define a plugin so that a developer within the Impact Framework team or somebody can pick it off? Um, would it be fun here to write like a plugin that we don't know that we want somebody else to go build rather than one that we know we're gonna build? Uh, let's start off with one we know we're gonna build. Let's start with one we're gonna build. Okay, so we decided we need a plugin that's we're gonna call Sum. I know it's a very simple plugin. This is not. This is honestly. It almost feels like we're doing a training session right now. But no, we literally need a plugin called Sum, that we need to build. So what is it? So a plugin called Sum, which does summation on inputs y, so we can perform logical operations in a pipeline. pipeline. And so how we go through this. So the configuration. So this is going to be a plugin which can take different inputs and it can output a variable that just sums up all those inputs. So a use case for this is we have like things that take, for instance, we have various other plugins down the path which output things like CPU energy, mem energy, all those other things, and then we just sum it all up into energy. So there's a couple of ways we might configure this. So we've got plugins of config. So we can say inputs might be the name of the config. Would you say that, Joseph? Yeah.
It
Actually,
can
that's a
be.
bit, but it's a
Yeah.
bit overloaded, that isn't it? Because there's also another something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
for config, we can choose between global config, which
yeah,
is configuration that applies wherever this plugin is invoked,
yeah,
or we can provide node level config.
yeah,
And then we have the idea of defaults as well, which is basically just input data that we don't want to write out a lot of times.
yeah, yeah. With defaults, I don't think you need to have it here.
No,
No, but global config. I don't think you need a global config for summation. No,
I don't think so, no.
no. For node level config, actually, I disagree. I disagree. I've changed my mind. I've changed my mind because what we would probably have is we would have uh
Wait, can we just talk for a second about how
go on.
generalizable we want this sum plugin to be?
Yeah.
Because there are cases where you might want to sum two metrics.
Mm-hmm.
For example, maybe you've got energy CPU and energy memory, and you want to sum those together in every
Mm.
observation.
Yeah.
Maybe you've also got cases where you want to add a constant to everything. So you're providing a
Oh,
value.
okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, are there any other types of summation we might want to do? Those are the two that I can think of. Add a
Okay.
constant to everything or add
Okay.
two arrays.
Okay.
Those arrays
So
probably come from different metrics inside your inputs array.
add a constant to an input and publish that to the output.
Hmm.
Uh, add multiple inputs together.
Yeah. So this would be, say, for each observation, adding the values of two different metrics into a new metric.
Yeah. That'd be like the energy example.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
Do we also take care of normalization of the units when you are adding multiple
Yeah, they have to be
energy
the same
levels?
unit.
yeah. I think we
Okay,
have to trust. I think we just have to trust.
got it.
Yeah. I think we have to trust because otherwise that'll add a
I mean,
massive
so at the moment we enforce that
Hmm,
anything that's prefixed with energy is expressed in units of kilowatt hours.
yeah.
got it.
Right now, that's an expectation based on our params.ts file.
Mm,
So you don't have to do that, but you're breaking away from our recommendations and our rule set if you're not doing that.
mm. Yeah. Okay. So what assumptions are? So everything is in the same. All units are respected.
Mhm.
This will not be doing any normalization. Um, don't know what limit says. Um, so so input params. How about input params? Would be one of the configs, and then you'd have an output. It would be a single output parameter. It wouldn't be multiples. You'd be able to do parameter. Um, input parameters. It could either be an array or a regex. Do you want to get into the regex world? Well, the use case.
We
Well, you
could,
know
we
what?
could.
Do you know what? I am. Let's not get into the regex world I think it's fair to say if you have to explicitly state if you're developing a manifest file and
There
you've got to
shouldn't be
say
any,
mem, yeah,
yeah, you should know what the outputs of all of the previous models in the pipeline are. So
yeah,
there should be no surprising variable names.
yeah, yeah. And if you changed it somewhat, so there's another energy being published, you will then just have to go up here and go, actually, I'm going to configure it. So input parameters, and then it's an array list of all input params you want to sum up.
Mhm.
And then it's like a string of the name of the output parameter you want to publish to. Output to. How do we phrase that? Output to. Okay. So here's the thing, though. I think you probably could have, like, if I'm imagining how we would implement this, like you would create. Let's say we want to represent psi e as this. I think it would be global configuration. I don't think it'd be want to. I think it'd be global configuration because then every time you use psi e, it would basically look like this. Uh,
You just might have different values to sum in each node.
it might be, but then I would say you call it something else because you can use this multiple times. I need to double check that assumption from the dev team, but I've always assumed that we could do it multiple times. Let me just finish this off. So let's say we say input parameters 1, 1, 2. So CPU CPU energy is one of them. Uh, let's just say what else we have? We have mem energy.
Yep, and network energy.
Oh, we have network energy. Network energy.
That's
This
it
one
at the
is,
moment.
yeah.
We
And
have a
then
kind of dummy stub for GPU energy, but it's not implemented yet.
it's not implemented. Okay. So then, but then if you ever wanted to have like another summation plugin that does a different type of summation, carbon,
Mm.
Mhm.
sum all carbon. Oh, that's exactly what we would do. Yeah. The input parameters might be, so we have like, I don't know what we're calling it now. We have like operational carbon. Oh, operational carbon, we're not calling it now, but operational carbon and embodied carbon. And the output carbon.
Mhm.
So I was thinking, I think we can have node level. I think that can be node level config which overrides global level config in this one. I think that's pretty reasonable. But
Mhm.
I also think that because it's like this, then anytime you can just use sum all carbon in a pipeline, and you know what it's going to do because it's like it's configured to always
Yeah,
do.
except you initialize the sum model with a
Mm,
name, one name.
yeah.
Now,
So
one question. Now, if you have psi e at a node level,
yeah.
and then you
Yes.
need to sum it up all to a graph, would that
Yeah.
be a node level config or a global config?
That if so let me do this actually because we can even do this. Theoretically, we can even do. So here's a question. Oh, I suspect. Oh, there's also what are other parameters? I can't remember. Path, kind,
Name model path,
Yeah.
right? Something.
name, model. Oh, we've changed the name model, and this is some model built in. I think isn't that what we call it, or
Yes.
something
If
like
it's
that?
part of the
Yeah,
IF, if it's an
yeah,
IF feature, it's just built
yeah.
in.
Be built in. So then this. I hope this. I should have just done Yeah. So I hope this indentation works. Yeah, the indentation should work. No, that doesn't work. Is that right? No. but it's the same as, it should be the same as config, yeah. I'm hoping this works, Joseph, the way I just described it. I'm hoping this, like, if not, it should work. You should be able to load the same plugin multiple times
Yeah,
with different names.
you just have
Yeah.
to add the multiple initialize blocks.
Yes. Yeah. 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 Yes. That's what I was hoping you would say. Because if that's the case, then Srini, that look good? Yeah, plugins. Then you've got a side. This is a real working session because I am going to submit this as an actual piece of work for the team to do. To site E, and then we've got some all energy, which is the same as SciE. We're just giving it a different name. And then in the YAML, we would have, where's the pipeline example? Oh, I don't have a pipeline example. Let me bring one up. No, we don't need one. I just have pipeline. So you wouldn't need sum all energy is all you need to put in the pipeline.
Yep.
The sum all the energy here, and the same thing here. You won't need to put the configuration string. You'll just because effectively what you're saying here is that use SciE, and it's already been kind of like globally configured to take CPU energy, this and this, and you're
Okay.
kind of creating like almost like a curried function. You're almost creating like a curried function. Yeah. Okay. So then, does it make sense overriding, Joseph, still? I don't know. Because
I think
the
it's
challenge
okay.
of overriding, well, then, well, yeah, I suppose. I suppose.
What's your concern?
Well, your debuggability of this whole process, like, you know what I mean? If I see some all energy right now, if it's only the global config, I can be, oh, look at me, I'm frozen. Right now, if I see some all energy right now, I'll think to myself, I know what that means. I don't even need to think about it. I know what that does.
Mm-hmm.
If it can be reconfigured at different parts of a tree in a graph, then I'll have to think, well, what did the configuration resolve to at this point in the graph to understand exactly what sum all energy means?
Yeah.
So I suppose,
But why would you need to overwrite at the node level? You would just create a new model, a new instance
yeah,
in the
I thought
initialize
so.
thing for each purpose.
Yeah,
Would
you're
this
almost
be?
like, go on.
I'm sorry. No. Would this be a type that it shouldn't be possible to override?
Well, if it's not coded in, if it's coded not to ignore any node, you could code it to ignore node level config, or just give a warning saying you can't, thank you for giving me these inputs. I don't know what to do with them. It's probably what I'd say. But yeah, because like if you wanted to, the only reason I think you might want to reconfigure it is if you got yourself stuck with a complicated tree and you're like, oh, this would be so easy just to like reconfigure the summation for this sub part of the tree. But that's kind of like a dirty hack rather than, okay, get up all the way to the top, and maybe your solution is actually to create a whole other pipeline, whole other like instance,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe just ignore energy. So some energy, right? And then that forces you to use this string in the pipeline versus the other one, and then at least that's clear to people that people are, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All
I
right.
mean, in that
So
example, you could just use the original model anyway. It would just add 0 for
oh
the missing
yeah.
field.
Oh, that's a good one. What if it's missing? What should we do? So behavior. Um. Oh, that is but oh, Joseph, do we want that behavior? If an input is missing, My gut reaction is telling me throw an exception, but maybe there is.
Depends how flexible you want this implementation to be. If you want sum all energy to work on every node, regardless, like this is basically what Sai does at the moment. If you can just apply Sai anywhere, and it will take whichever are available of energy CPU, energy network, and energy memory. Maybe that's all three. Maybe it's just one, and it will return the sum of whatever
So
it
it's
can
some of
find
that
in each
one.
node.
What would cause?
I mean, one component in your graph might just be doing networking. It might be a router or something. It might be a
True.
switch. Whereas some other
True.
component is a fully fledged server. And in that case, you don't have necessary CPU to account for in one, but you do in another. And same with well, I suppose memory and network are probably
So do you
common
want
to
to?
both. But
Is
you
it the?
could certainly imagine something like that.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. That makes sense. Because otherwise, you'd have to create. You're right. Otherwise, you'd have to create a separate. Okay, that make. Is zero the right default? Would we ever want a default other than zero?
I don't think so, unless you want to default to some idling value for CPU energy or something like that. But so you might be incorporating something that doesn't have a CPU.
Yeah. And actually, if we want to create a default, I'd probably create another plugin which kind of defaults some value. In fact, it's probably better to have a. Well, we've got defaults for that anyway. We've got defaults feature. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So if there is no input parameter, default to zero. Oh wow, we've actually done some work here. Do you know what? Let's complete this. Let's complete this. No, let's not complete this. I'll complete this later because it's all like fleshing it out then with some things. Let's go through the rest of it. Assumptions, limitations. Let's think it through. What? How is this model limited in its function, behavior, accuracy?
Well, so one thing that's slightly related to something Srini mentioned earlier. This won't do any. This isn't and this type of summation is not aggregation across a graph. It operates only on the set of inputs, one set of inputs at a time.
Okay. It's just like summation within an observation.
Yeah. It's not summing things across nodes or anything like that.
Only does summation, which is fine.
Yeah. It's just a different function, different feature.
Yeah. Not summation across observations, put that way. I suppose it's add.
Yeah.
What the limitations does add have? It's not divide.
I think it's more about the scope, isn't it? It can add things within an observation, but not across observations, because adding across observations is aggregation, which is a separate feature.
Okay. All right, I'm good. Srini, you good? Srini's good.
Sorry, I was talking on mute. Yep, sounds
good. I'll flesh this out more fully later on, but yeah, feels pretty good. Yeah, it's actually quite useful. Who would have thought sum was so complicated? But that was a good chat. That. So let's see who's left on the call after that riveting. Oh, everybody. Wilco, you still there? Oh, you can't speak, so you can't even say that you're still there.
I can allow people to speak.
Yeah, go on, bring Wilco on. If you're still around.
Hello.
Hello, hi. How are you?
Hi. I'm great. I love the very how do you say it, big pair programming session. Big fan of that. So yeah.
we did add. Yeah. So let's do divide next week because maybe that's more interesting.
Yeah.
So welcome. So yeah, I think we've been chatting and outside of this, and then excited to see your submission. Let me try and bring it up actually. Yeah, I think I've got it. Let me share my screen. Oh, you're gonna share it? No, I'll share it. Green path simulation. Here we go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we've
when you
been
talk
doing
to,
some brainstorming.
mm,
Yeah.
it's exciting to see, and you're the first one with pictures.
I
No,
mean,
you're
it
not.
is generated though,
Yeah, that's all
but
right.
yeah.
That's all right. Don't get fucked yourself. So yeah,
Yeah.
when you talk to us, like what's the yeah, give us the elevator pitch for the ideas and what you've been thinking.
Yeah, I mean, we've first been thinking, okay, we want some fun data, some fun data to work with.
Hmm.
So we've been first thinking, yeah, should we do something with sensors and maybe with Arduino, Raspberry Pi?
Hmm.
And while we were talking with the group we were with, we were thinking a few times like logistics, something that we like, and maybe although it's very optimized these days, and yeah, bringing it as fast as possible to you, and cost efficient. But
Yeah.
if you really look at it, can you look at from another perspective? So can you get maybe data out of it? And also because we were thinking about, okay, can we think outside of carbon emission? Can we do
Beautiful.
maybe
Yeah.
something with waste? Because
Mm.
well, yeah, I like to order some stuff online, and at the end of the day, yeah, I gather a lot of, although it is, how do you say it, cardboard, and
Mhm.
that can be recycled, but
Mm.
still you get a lot of stuff. And it also has a very clear like starting upstream part where you already have multiple things, like the delivery van has a footprint, and the products you maybe will simulate has footprint. And then can we do something that with that, combining with creating maybe a pipeline or multiple pipelines in the
Mhm.
impact framework, trying to
Mhm.
follow as much as the rules as we can,
Mhm.
and maybe come up with something beside like the software carbon intensity, what we
Yeah.
also very interested in and we really want to use,
No,
like
no. I
in certain yeah.
no, I think you hit the nail on the head. Like we're starting off like I think it's my dream. I think some of us internally have spoken about this. Like, we're applying impact framework, it makes sense from a software perspective, and hopefully we will, build up the ecosystem so it really works for software. But the dream is that it's used everywhere.
Yeah.
If it works for software, why doesn't it work for logistics?
Yeah, and then you kind of lean into like life cycle assessment. But let's go. Yeah, I'm
Mm.
going back to kind of the what we submitted. So we also thought, how can we do something for the hackathon that we can build really small and
Mm-hmm.
then kind of build then the full chain and then
Mm-hmm.
eventually add upon.
Mm.
So we thought, okay, if you just have like one A to B simulation with some products, and if we then have YAML as an input, the manifest file, because that was maybe confusing just for me.
Mm.
The manifest file, is it the same as the YAML input, or manifest file is more describing of more going on? I haven't.
It's the same one.
Okay, nice.
Same one. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
There's
for
nothing
me, that
else.
is like input data, then
Yeah.
structures in YAML, which was fun for me because I'm last few years more with JSON, and I work
Mm.
with YAML in pipelines, like in delivery pipelines, that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
also fun for me. So okay, and then I have to look up into the structure that yeah, to see how it's structured now, and the data schema, if I say it correctly, that
Mm.
we probably are going to follow. And then
Mm.
yeah, see if we can create, probably need a new plugin, probably then also with a model
Yeah.
that is like, yeah, doing something like, for example, if you have the weight of a recycled or renewed material and you
Yeah.
divide it by the total weight of material used for recycling, and then you can have kind of like a circular economy index or something like that. We're figuring it out. Tomorrow
Mm.
we have a brainstorm session to go
Mm.
deeper. Is it tomorrow, Wednesday? Time goes fast.
Tuesday. Tuesday.
Tuesday. Yeah,
Yeah.
so we have one day more. But yeah, we're going to figure out, so what are kind of the indexes or scores that we can come up with that is also reusable and also kind of is already proven and out there.
Mm.
So we're figuring out that. So yeah, and eventually, of course, if it goes through the impact framework, yeah, we also want to make it visual. So we're
Mm.
thinking to spin this up eventually in an Angular application. But still, although
Mm.
it looks maybe a lot, we try to keep it as small as possible so that we have at any time in the hackathon can say, okay, this was the product the MVP we created now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah.
That is it. That's what we hope. Look, we know it's limited time, but as long as you can make
Yes.
some progress towards it. I suppose other questions I've got for you, and they kind of maybe might help with the approach is the way
Yeah.
way I think about it is just asking yourself first off, like, what are the observations that you can actually make about the
Yeah.
thing you want to measure.
Yeah.
Then asking yourself the question, what is the impact I want to
Yeah.
induce these observations to become?
Yeah.
And then trying to figure out like what are the things that you need to create to kind of like step by step turn that observation into that impact.
Yes.
And also perhaps like if you can get it to some place and then let some other plugins take over that we've already built, then that
Yeah.
might help you with your pipeline as well. So if you actually wanted to go, yeah, or maybe you take some of the, well, none of our plugins help you from that perspective, but that's kind of like some of the questions. Yeah. So what are the, so you mentioned something like weight, you mentioned logistics.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
going from A to B, you have some products, you have maybe one or two customers where the package has to be delivered to.
Mhm.
And we also have thought about simple concept is like if you're at that address, can you pick up something else that was maybe thrown away or can be reused, or just keep it then still simple, but how would more for the model, how would the model look like, how would you score it, and indeed how can you make an impact? And yeah, it will still be a challenge. I think that is the hardest challenge, part of the challenge, because I'm happy that we have a few volunteers who want to join us on this on this adventure. Yeah, and also for me, it's really fun because yeah, I know from the Green Software Foundation for now, I think 4 weeks. So it's pretty
Nice.
new for me as as well, and I'm figuring out things, and yeah, it really it's a lot of inspiration on what we could do, like in our daily work, or yeah, come up with ideas to help customers with this. Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds really exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's good. I think if you can, I'm just my mind's like just rolling around trying to like suggest things, like
Yeah.
so like if there's I suppose with logistics you mentioned before, there's because also with an observation it's also something that happens at a particular time and lasts with particular duration, so it's like a time, an observation is a time-based thing.
Yeah.
So you could have an observation at a particular time.
Yes, every kilometer we fought. So if you like the first simulation, like 5 kilometers, and you have every kilometer, you would say, okay, I will measure now the fuel we have, or not because it's battery, or and then maybe 4 or 5 measurements of the things that's going on this van. You can make the measures.
But I think it would have to be like every like hour or something, or every like
okay, time
10
based.
minutes. Yeah, time based. Yeah, because just because of the way
Okay.
the observations are time based. I suppose that's interesting. We've never
Yeah.
really thought about.
I mean, if
Another
we do it every
spectrum to.
kilometer and we would just take, you have the start time and the time at that
Yeah,
moment and
it
that
works.
moment.
It
Yeah.
works. I don't think we have any, like we don't have any the times, the durations don't need to be the same. We can
Yeah.
like we actually have a plugin called TimeSync that Joseph built, which will
Okay.
then normalize for like a lot of the aggregation to work eventually.
Yeah.
Because we aggregate up a time bucket, you
Yeah.
will need eventually you'll need all the observations to synchronize.
Yes.
But we have a time sync plugin, which like you just provide in whatever durations and whatever times you have, and it kind of like uses logic to say, well, if it was every hour, what would it have been?
Yeah.
Or every minute or something like
I
that.
understand that one.
Yeah. So that would be like, so then it would be like, yeah, so it would be, so like a component might be a truck. This is very interesting. A component might be a truck.
Yeah.
And then you're just putting like every kilometer, you're just putting like how much, some time-based component of like
time-based. Yes, fine.
Yeah.
That dimension. Yes.
And it's kilometer. And you would store, so the observation would be kilometer, or would the observation be fuel? No, you already knew kilometer, won't you? So it'll just be kilometer.
Yeah, or we would say like every 5 minutes the van is moving. You do a measurement of certain entities or products. Yeah, well, things you can measure. Yeah.
Things you can measure. So then what you'd need to take, so if your observation is like distance, you would need a model which then takes distance and turns it into something, whatever impact you want to have.
Yeah.
Even just that basic model, and I know you've kind of, even just that one is so demonstrative of the use case we have here, because then you could even group things. You could group the trucks into regions. I'm in the UK, like UK
Mhm.
North, UK South. Then you could see, like,
Yeah.
as the aggregation works up, you could see, well, the north of the UK is isn't having more waste than the south of the UK, or something like that. You could group it in
Yeah.
different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you have even more cool stuff. Like if you would measure the battery lifetime, if you did enough simulations, at what
Of a
point
truck.
are you gonna replace, of the truck? Let's say it's an electric. We can
Yeah.
also, of course, other
Mm,
kind of fuels or energies.
mhm,
But when are you gonna replace it, right? Is it maybe reusable?
mhm,
Can it be refurbished? There are so many things you can do with this scenario.
mhm,
Yeah, that's why we were very excited. And that was also a hard thing to come up with a thing where
mhm,
everyone in your team or the people you do this with have domain knowledge of. Because I worked
mm,
with people who have really sustainability knowledge in high tech.
mhm.
But yeah, if you want to do this hackathon, I like to kind of have the knowledge inside,
Yeah.
your circle.
Yeah.
So yeah,
No, that makes good. That's really good. Yeah.
yeah, and also of course still the other, of course the normal, the give me a sec. The software carbon intensity, of course, is also, I think I'm very excited to see what other people are gonna do with it. Yeah,
Yeah. But don't bite off more than you can chew. There's a lot here, to be honest with you.
I like to be kind of, how do you say it? Go for it. See how far we go,
Yeah.
Tom. But yeah.
Yeah. Shoot for
Shoot
the
for the moon.
stars.
Yeah,
Shoot for the stars. You never know, you might hit
yeah,
the moon.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and still I'm very passionate and excited about it. So yeah.
Yeah. Joseph, do you have any thoughts? Like, any feedback so far?
It's awesome. It's very, very exciting, and it's really nice to hear it's really nice to hear in person rather than read the text, because it helps flesh out
Yeah,
some of the details.
yeah,
It seems like the most challenging thing is going to be prioritizing all the things that you could do
yeah,
and finding
yeah,
the discrete set that become a
yeah.
hackathon proposal. So
I
that's
have a lot of
absolutely
experience in that,
stuff.
so that helps a lot. I've been also responsible for running an operation with development teams. So
Great.
we're gonna use like a nice, neat agile board with tasks where there we have some kind of a rule that we have, like if you don't work on something for 3 days because you didn't have voluntary time, someone else can pick it up. But yeah, the process is gonna be probably also a part of the challenge.
Yeah, I think so. But it's awesome. Overall really, really excited to see what comes out.
Yeah, cool.
Shini, did you have any thoughts? Don't want to put you on the spot.
No, no. I think this is awesome because these are the kind of initiatives that will push the boundaries of what impact framework can achieve beyond what the original. I mean, obviously, we have the vision was to go beyond carbon, but then seeing use cases like this coming to life, it's fulfilling to see. Whether this could be something that could go beyond the hackathon as well.
Agreed.
Cool.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks. I don't know if have you got any questions for us or anything we can help you with?
Right now, no. And I will follow you, all you guys, with everything you do. And I mean, thanks for all the great work.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you for this submission. We're very excited to see what comes out of it. Sounds like you've got a big team. If you've got an agile board, ooh, let's see.
I mean,
what you can-
with 4 of us right now, I always try to convince more people, but yeah.
Four's plenty.
Yeah,
Four's
it's plenty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Wilco. Thank you for joining.
Okay.
Yeah, catch you around.
Yes.
So I don't know. Actually, I don't know what else there is for us to cover today. Joseph, did you have any? If not, we can leave it.
Don't really have any other burning issues, to be honest. I think
No.
we've covered a lot of ground.
Oh, okay then. In that case, let's end it a little bit short. No questions. It's all good. Oh, for a question, it was just a one. Oh, wonderful. So there's Hashita was asking about. She's a user interface designer, experience designer. Hey, so Wilco, if you want to look for a user interface designer, Hashika is perhaps one of the people to join your team. But anyway, okay. Thanks all. Catch you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.